Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Crime drama as we go back 73 years to February 7th, 1950. Gerald Mohr starring in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, The Long Arm. And we thank you for tuning in. On this Tuesday, this is the 7th day of February, 327 days remaining till we get to 2024. The strongest in the series of earthquakes strikes New Madrid, Missouri on this date in 1812, and that was an absolute craziness. A fee-based long-distance service inaugurated on this date in 1892, the first call connected between New York and Chicago in 1892. 1904, a fire in Baltimore destroyed 1,500 buildings in 30 hours. 1914, Charlie Chaplin first appeared as the Tramp in his first film, Kid Auto Races. In 1940, premiering in New York City, Walt Disney's Pinocchio, ukulele Ike Cliff Edwards as Jiminy Cricket. The film was a critical success, an icon today, but due to World War II, the film lost over $1 million in 1940 money. General Dwight Eisenhower resigned on this date in 1948 as Army Chief of Staff, succeeded by General Omar Bradley. The U.S. government banned all Cuban imports and exports on this date in 1962, which is what made Cuban cigars so precious. Of course, many of the Cuban people who were so instrumental in that started plying their trade in Florida. The Beatles arrived on their first visit to the U.S. on this date in 1964.
Who came up with the name Beatles, and what does it really mean?
John thought of the name Beatles, and he'll tell you about it now. It means Beatles, doesn't it? You know, that's just a name. You know, like shoe.
Imagine the shoes. You see, we could have been called the Shoes for all you know.
I got every Beatle record at home. Every Beatle record. We didn't get to see them. What kind of police protection? I didn't like to get a piece of the Beatles. I don't know where they got them out of here.
There have been huge crowds of teenage girls outside complaining that they don't want to mob you, they just want to speak to you. What do you think about this? Do you want to talk to them?
Well, have you ever tried talking to about 200 people at once? We'd love to, you know. If we all wave and somebody always has to stop by waving and inciting them.
The Beatles arriving in the U.S. on this date in 1964. The Senate voted 77-0 on this date in 1973 to approve Senate Resolution 60 and establish a select committee to investigate Watergate, with the chairman, North Carolina Senator Samuel James Sam Ervin.
The questions that have been raised in the wake of the June 17 break-in strike at the very undergirding of our democracy. If the many allegations made to this date are true, then the burglars who broke into the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee at Watergate were in effect breaking into the home of every citizen of the United States. And if these allegations proved to be true, what they were seeking to steal was not the jewels, money, or other property of American citizens, but something much more valuable, their most precious heritage, the right to vote in a free election.
What does it say that I remember Sam Ervin not so much for Watergate, but those bushy eyebrows? Sam Ervin established the head of the Senate Select Committee to investigate Watergate on this date in 1973. New York, New York became the official city anthem of New York City on this date in 1985. Oh, baby Doc Jean-Claude Duvalier, the president of Haiti, removed on this date in 1986 on an Air Force plane to the celebrations of citizens.
It is as if the city has awakened from a long dream. Everybody's in the street, everybody's happy and just shouting their joy that the Duvalier regime has taken an end. Everybody's happy and everybody's just showing it off.
The president of Haiti removed from Haiti on this date in 1986. The European Union founded on this date in 1992. The alleged mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Yes, there was a World Trade Center bombing back in 1993, a lot of Americans forget. Ramzi Youssef was arrested on this date in 1995 in Pakistan. And the state of Mississippi officially certified the 13th Amendment on this date in 2013, becoming the last state to approve the abolition of slavery. The 13th Amendment formally ratified by Mississippi in 1995. Passing away on this date in history, the man behind tires, Harvey Firestone. Also, actor Nick Adams, musician actor Bobby Troup, Canadian magician, Douglas Henning, Dale Evans, and Richard Hatch from Battlestar Galactica, and actor Albert Finney. Born on this date, statesman, humanist, and author Sir Thomas More, the man behind Deere and Company, John Deere, born on this date, novelist Charles Dickens, author Laura Ingalls Wilder, Nobel Prize laureate Sinclair Lewis, musician-composer U.B. Blake, from Tarzan, Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, no, not recently, back in the early days, back in the silence and early soundies, Buster Crabbe, born on this date, actor Eddie Bracken, saxophonist King Curtis, and from RoboCop and NCIS/LA, Miguel Ferrer. Turning 63 today is actor James Spader. Garth Brooks, Low Places, 61 years old today. Comedian Eddie Izzard is 61. Comedian Chris Rock is 58. And Ashton Kutcher is 45. Those some of the people celebrating the 7th day of February as their birthday. If this is your birthday.
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say happy birthday to you.
And from 73 years ago, February 7th, 1950, Gerald Mohr, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. Thank you for tuning in on this Tuesday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. February 7th, 1950, Gerald Mohr, starring in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe and The Long Arm.
Get this and get it straight. Crime is a sucker's road, and those who travel it wind up in the gut of the prison or the grave. It happened in a place called Bay City, where I was unwelcome to a fat fry cook with a secret and a dapper gambler. But to the long arm of the law, I was poison. It happened like this.
From the pen of Raymond Chandler, outstanding author of crime fiction, comes his most famous character in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. Now, with Gerald Mohr starred as Philip Marlowe, we bring you tonight's exciting story, The Long Arm.
My Sunday best on, going strutting with Miss Laura Belly. Oh, fine. Every time I take a shower, I've never seen it. All right, okay. Hello.
Mr. Philip Marlowe, please.
Yeah, speaking.
One moment, please, sir. Bay City is calling.
Bay City.
I have your party, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Hello, is that you, Marlowe?
Yeah.
This is Ernie Parch, Phil, at Bay City.
Parch?
Yeah, you remember me, don't you?
No, I can't see. Oh, yeah, Ernie Parch. You're the guy who saved my life when the Bay City law left me beat up and bleeding all over the city dump, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Marlowe, please, listen.
What?
I'm in an awful jam.
Like what?
I just got out of jail yesterday. A year and a day.
Jail, Ernie?
Yeah, a very neat frame, Phil, but not half as neat as the one they're trying to hang on me now. This one's worse. You remember my wife, don't you? Grace, tall, blonde?
Yeah, what about her?
She's dead, Marlowe.
Oh, no.
She was murdered. They're going to try to pin it on me. You'll come right away, huh?
Well, look, Ernie, I I'm poisoned in Bay City, you know that.
Please.
Rake Sturman would give a year's pay just to watch me break an arm. 5 if I drown.
But, Marlowe, you don't know it was Sturman who had you messed up for sticking your nose into Bay City politics?
No, but I can sure second guess it. It was tough cop tactics all the way.
And you mean you won't help me?
Yeah, well, Ernie, really, I'm sorry, kid, but you better get yourself an honest lawyer
In Bay City? You know better than that, Phil. Who'd have the guts to knock heads with the police in this town? Especially when they got a custom-tailored pigeon like me standing by with one wing already clipped. Phil, I tell you, it looks like I murdered Grace.
Yeah, now look, kid.
Phil, I saved your life once.
Okay. What's your address, Ernie?
It's 38 Orlando Drive.
Bay City was a snug seacoast town some 20 miles southwest of L.A. and about twice that distance from being on the up and up. Its string of gambling houses were politely winked at by some elements of the law, and its gamblers, in turn, politely winked back, while the folding money passed from sucker to slicker to crooked cop. But Bay City also was home to a lot of honest fishermen, retired real estate brokers, and another element of the law, good cops. Which side Detective Lieutenant Rake Sturman was on, I'd never been able to figure. He only added one way, all cop, morning, noon, and night. The kind who made any private detective feel a little less welcome than a leper. Well, an hour after dark, I pulled up and parked well away from 38 Orlando Street. 5 minutes later, I was watching a nervous Ernie Parch wear out the carpet in his shabby living room.
It was at Art Manelli's place, Phil, about a year ago. The little casino. It's out north on the edge of town.
Uh-huh.
I'd had a few drinks with some of the guys who worked at my gas station. One thing led to another, and finally, we were out there trying to pyramid $50 into $50,000.
That's when the cops came in, huh?
Yeah. You know, one of those pre-election raids that look good in the papers. You want a drink, Phil?
No, thanks. But look, that raid couldn't have gotten you a year and a day, Ernie.
No. But the gun they found in my topcoat pocket could have.
Mm-hmm.
And did. Yeah, 38 I'd never seen before in my life.
Plant, huh?
Yeah, a plant that I could only figure two ways, Phil. Either someone at Art Manelli's place just happened to choose my pocket to drop his gun into, or someone just happened to drop it in on purpose. Someone who was sweet on Grace and wanted me out of the way.
Now, look, you're sure you know what you're saying, Ernie?
Positive. 366 days in prison with only one miserable letter from her convinced me. That and the word I got at Gumbo's place late this afternoon.
Gumbo's place?
Yeah, Gumbo's shanty. It's a chicken joint run by a fat fry cook named Lou Gomborski. Grace worked there. I stopped in just before I ran into Lieutenant Rake Sturman.
Wait a minute. What do you mean ran into Sturman? What happened?
Well, Phil, I was on the street getting into my sedan, you see?
Yeah?
I picked it up from a guy who was using it while I was away. When Sturman pulled up alongside of me in a squad car, and he started to tell me how much he liked seeing ex-cons back in Bay City.
What interrupted him?
Oh, a call on the police radio. But before he left, he promised to drop around here sometime tonight and chat a while.
Mm-hmm. And before that, at Gumbo's place?
I found Grace.
Now, wait a minute. You've had enough, Ernie.
No.
You found Grace in what?
We had a fight. She admitted running around, said I wasn't worth waiting for. But she wouldn't say who was. I slapped her. Hard.
All right, take it easy. Grace is dead now, murdered, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, she's dead. Yeah, and they're gonna tag me for it.
Maybe. Now tell me what happened after you left Gumbo's.
I ran into Sturman, like I said.
Yeah?
Then I drove around for a couple hours to cool off. When I got hold of myself, I came back here and I found her. Strangled to death. In that chair, Phil. It was horrible.
What'd you do about it, Ernie?
I'm not sure exactly.
Here. I changed my mind.
Thanks, Phil. No. I decided to get her out of here. It was just getting dark, so I waited a little, and then I carried her down the rear stairs, and I put her in my car, in the back seat. I put a blanket over her. She's still there, Phil. I was going to drive the car away, but, well, I guess I lost my nerve. What am I going to do, Phil? Sturman might be here any minute. Phil, you got to help me. You must have.
Ernie, that won't do it.
I'm sorry.
All right, kid. Are the keys in the car?
No. I got them here. What are you going to do?
I don't know. But you get out of here. Do something.
But what, Phil?
Anything. Go to a movie, act as relaxed as you can. Do anything. Except come back here for at least 2 hours. Now go on.
All right. All right, Phil, whatever you say, I'll go to a movie, yeah. Right now. Right away. Thanks, Phil. I know you'll get me out of this.
Ernie Podge's vote of confidence made comfortable listening for both of us. When he was gone and I was down the rear stairs and out to his car in the alley, keys in hand, I realized that it stopped right there in the back seat. Then in the light that spilled from a nearby unshaded window, I saw I was going to have company. Sharp-pointed elevator shoes, careful blue flannel, and patent leather hair over a pasty face. All of it no more than 5.5 feet and held together by a hand-painted tie that sported a dapper knot the size of a cantaloupe.
Good evening. I wonder if you could help me. I'm looking for Ernie Parch, 36 Orlando Drive. I couldn't find any number on this house. Is this it?
Yeah, but Parch isn't in. He just left.
Oh. You know where he went?
No.
It's all right, Cautious. I only want to talk to him. My name is Art Manelli. I'm a friend of his. An acquaintance. You?
The same, yeah. He went to a movie, Mr. Manelli. I saw the picture, so I'm going home, back to San Diego. I live there.
Oh, good. San Diego means US 101 to the south, right past my next stop. I came in a cab, or don't those keys in your hand there say that you're leaving? I mean, I don't want to appear presumptuous.
Or wait for a taxi.
Or wait for a taxi. Shall I get in, or do you want to slide over to the driver's seat from here?
I want to slide, if that's all right with you.
Perfectly. Tell me, Mr.
Cruishutter.
Mr. Cruishutter?
Yeah.
You had business with Ernie?
Personal business. You, Mr. Manelli?
Yes, I wanted to see Ernie about a good location I have in mind for a new gas station. You know about such things?
No, and I don't think you do either, Manelli. Unless, of course, the pumps can be converted into roulette wheels.
Oh, you know who I am, eh?
Yeah. I also know it's a little strange for you to show up at Ernie's place the day after he gets out of the state pen for a frame that took place at your little casino.
What are you getting at, Mr. Cruishutter?
An outside chance that you yourself were responsible for that frame? That you're anxious to see what, if anything, Ernie intends to do about it?
The light's red, Cruishutter.
No fooling.
Now tell me, why would I want to frame Ernie Parch?
I don't know. Could be, Manelli, that you did it accidentally, a little gun hidden in a big hurry. Or it could be you had a tighter reason, huh?
Like what?
Like Grace Parch, very pretty girl.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah, sure I am, Manelli. Just plain nuts. So why don't you get out here? Get yourself a nice, sane taxi cab. It'll be safer.
All right. Just as you say.
Mister, me and my pal need a lift going toward the highway.
Sure he is.
Aye, it's swell. Come on, Norm. We'll ride in the back seat.
No, I got stuff in there. Close that door and beat it.
Well, okay, Happy. Thanks a lot.
Stuff, Mr. Cruishutter? What kind of stuff?
Rum, Manelli. I'm a bootlegger who never got the word, believe me.
Oh, but I do. The light's green, Mr. Cruishutter. So long.
I went 3 short blocks, then I got out of the traffic and drove as far back toward Orlando Street as a vacant lot that was only a block away from Ernie's. Thereafter, I wiped the wheel, the gear shift, everything else I'd touched clean of prints. I left the sedan as is and walked back to where I'd originally parked my own car. Behind the wheel of my coupe, I spent the next 20 minutes finding Gumbo's shanty where Grace Parch used to work. It was a wooden daddy longleg standing knee-deep in the Pacific Ocean, encircled at the waist by an imitation ship's deck for summertime outdoor eating. A gangplank led up from the street level, and when I'd gone about half the length of it, I saw something at the door ahead, shaped like a bowling pin, topped by a chef's hat, and encompassed by 1.5 yards of Hickok belt that said, this had to be Fat Fry Cook Lou Gomborski. He was turning the reversible sign from open to closed.
Sorry, mister, I'm closing early tonight. Food's all gone.
Oh, then how about a drink? I only want a quick shot, Gumbo.
Gumbo? You're a stranger here. How you know the name?
Well, it's written overhead in 4-foot letters. I keep my eyes open.
Okay. Go on in. Make it fast. I want to hit the hay.
Oh. You live here?
Yeah. What do you want?
Scotch.
Anything with it?
Little information.
Oh? About what?
Girl who works for you, Grace Parch.
I don't know anything about her.
Not even for 5, Gumbo?
Make it 10.
Okay, 10. Yeah, and the drink's on the house, huh?
Yeah, okay, mister. Grace Punch is 5'2", eyes are blue. Also, she quit work at 6 tonight like she does every night, period.
Uh-huh. Here's to you. Now tell me, where's she been going while Ernie's been in stir?
For another 10?
Yeah, for another 10. On one condition, no more lousy poems, Gumbo. Just a few straight facts, huh?
Sure. Sure. Another drink?
No. Facts first. Where's she been hanging around?
A little casino.
Oh, that's Manelli's joint, huh?
Yeah, Manelli's place, where a lot of people hang out.
What is it? What are you staring at, Gumbo?
A window, I thought I saw someone out there on a deck looking in.
Probably seagulls. Forget it. Now look, I'd like to know...
Sure it is someone getting away in a car.
Oh, any idea who it was? I said any idea...
I heard you.
February 7th, 1950, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The news from 73 years ago today follows these messages from your favorite station. Classic Radio Theater family, you know our friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. He didn't stop by just creating the best pillow. He created the best bed sheets ever. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me because, you know, I'm working like 67 hours a day. Now, Mike's offering the best deal on his Giza Dreams bed sheets ever. You can get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98. You'll never want to sleep on anything else once you slept on a set of Giza Dream sheets. A special offer for you right now. You can get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98. Call 1-800-928-4715. Use the promo code Wyatt. Or go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Wyatt. It's good on anything on the website. That number again, 1-800-928-4715. Use my promo code Wyatt. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We're listening to an episode of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe starring Gerald Mohr. It was broadcast on Tuesday, February 7th, 1950. In the newspapers of that Tuesday 73 years ago, these were some of the headlines. The Republican Party, in a fighting 1950 campaign document yesterday, demanded a voice in the initiation of a united American foreign policy and pledged itself to oppose socialism. After all-day secret sessions that at times reverberated with hot debate, the party came up with a 2,500-word statement protesting that the administration has handled foreign affairs without consulting the minority party. It also denounced what it termed the administration's soft attitude toward those in government who hold or support communist attitudes. American authorities cracked down on the Germans yesterday with sharp rebukes and stern warnings. High Commissioner John J. McCloy fired both barrels in a major policy speech in Stuttgart, Germany, 3 days after returning from official conferences in Washington. He told the Germans their politicians were harming Germany with anti-Allied criticisms, that they'd better quit agitating on foreign issues and get down to business on their serious internal problems, that there will be no German army or air force, that too many former Nazis are creeping back into important places, and that the people are too apathetic toward their political duties. The nation's soft coal miners struck yesterday, and President Truman immediately put the Taft-Hartley Act into motion on a speed-up basis to try to force them back to work next week. Nearly 400,000 of John Lewis's United Mine Workers staged the midwinter walkout, angrily forcing a showdown after 10 months of contract bickering over the union's demands for higher pay, bigger welfare funds, and other concessions. The nation has 2 weeks of coal on hand. President Truman found a national emergency was near. Cyrus F. Ching, the government mediation chief yesterday, called on the CIO telephone workers to put off their national strike until February 24th and sternly told both sides they must reach a prompt settlement. With the walkout now set for 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, Ching spoke out for intensified bargaining. He warned a strike might have international consequences by damaging the national economy and our prestige abroad. Screen actress Eleanor Parker lashed back from Hollywood at Lady Astor, who told an English audience last week that the most disgraceful thing women can do is to continually succumb to changing fashions, to which Eleanor Parker retorted, "The function of making herself as attractive as possible not only is every woman's right, it's her duty." A new Wisconsin law is designed to keep rabbits from masquerading as seals. The law requires that all fur garments sold have a tag that gives the English name of the fur. Arctic seal thus becomes seal-dyed rabbit, and Hudson seal will be seal-dyed muskrat. Those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Tuesday, February 7th, 1950. On your radio, The New Adventures of Philip Marlowe, which continues now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Now go on home, mister. Get out of here.
Take it easy, big guy. You got $20.
Give it. Yeah. Here's your lousy $20 and the drinks on the house, and good night.
After one question. The guy in that car that just took off, was it Manelli?
I'll repeat myself. Good night, mister.
Okay. We'll let it go at good night, Gumbo, but just for now. I wasn't going to get any more out of Gumbo, so I went back to my car, pointed it north toward the edge of town in the little casino, where I figured I might get a lead on Manelli's whereabouts. But 30 minutes later, when I was there out of my car and standing in front of what looked like an oversized concrete blockhouse alone in a parking lot the size of the Coliseum, I figured different. A huge sign out front read, "Closed for alterations, will reopen soon, bigger and better than ever." Gambling in Bay City was obviously on the QT like an artillery barrage. By the time I got back to 38 Orlando Street, nearly 3 hours had gone by since I'd last seen Ernie. As I started up the steps toward the light in his living room, I wasn't happy over the lack of information I had for him. But when I opened the door and saw what was waiting for me, that didn't matter. In one huge, beefy, freckled hand, there was the usual police department .38 revolver.
Hello, kid.
The ice-cold gray eyes, the thick, broken nose, the nasty curl of the lips, all belonged to Bay City's toughest homicide detective, Lieutenant Rake Sterman.
Hello, Marlowe. I've been waiting for you too long, kid. Why, I would have baked a little cake if I knew I was going to have this much time.
Where's Ernie Podge, Sterman?
He's under arrest, kid. We found his wife's body. He's under arrest for murder. And you know what else, kid?
No, what else, kid?
So are you.
In just a moment, the second act of Philip Marlowe. But first...
From 73 years ago, February 7th, 1950, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
It's a big, bold story set in the heartland of America, along the edge of Lonely Mountain. I am open for business. And so Big William Gorgon, played by handsome Michael James, fiercely set down his Midwest roots.
Oh, darling, we're going to sell bathrobes and raise chickens.
Set his adoring wife, Wilhelmina, portrayed by beautiful Glenda Olsen.
Oh, I love our store, Will.
But they hadn't counted on Big Ralph's bathrobes and cattle store coming to town.
Oh, Will, what will we do, Will?
Will had a plan, a way of facing off against tough Big Ralph. We're going to change the face of America. We're going to advertise.
Adver what?
With print, broadcasting, and bus benches, we're going to tell people who we are and where we are.
What's a bus?
And so the story of how one man brought advertising to the heartland.
Oh, will it work?
It will. Well, my name ain't Will, Wilhelmina. You got to advertise or we'll die. And so the greatest marketing story of all time is here. Advertise or die, dopey.
Put your message on this national advertising platform. Email classicradiotheater@gmail.com. classicradiotheater@gmail.com. More crime drama on Wednesday's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Dick Powell as Richard Diamond, private detective from 71 years ago, February 8, 1952, the Eddie Burke case, the search for Eddie Burke, and a set of counterfeit plates. That's coming up on Wednesday's Classic Radio Theater. But now the conclusion of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, starring Gerald Mohr, 73 years ago today, February 7th, 1950.
Now, with our star, Gerald Mohr, we return to the second act of Philip Marlowe and tonight's story, The Long Arm.
Lieutenant Sturman moved toward me, he curled the thick fingers of his left hand into a fist. I braced myself, but the blow never came. Instead, he shoved his face up close to mine, and his mouth twisted into a one-sided grin that was as full of fun as a set of thumb screws.
Well, you finally came through for me, didn't you, kid?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I've been waiting a long, long time for you to pull something in my town, Marlowe, where you can't run back across a line and hide behind the skirts of your cop friends over in L.A.
You're having yourself a pipe dream, Sturman.
Lieutenant Sturman! And don't forget it.
Real sorry, officer. Now, do you mind explaining what this is all about? That's one of my rights as a citizen, you know, even in Bay City.
As far as I'm concerned, killers ain't got any rights. Now tell me you had nothing to do with Grace Parch's murder, so I can tell you why you're a stinking liar, private detective.
I suppose private detectives have no rights either, huh?
None.
Ah.
We found the girl's body in a car parked at a vacant lot, and somebody overlooked a couple of fingerprints, which I'm going to match up with yours, Marlowe.
How come you're so sure?
Because we pulled Ernie Parch out of the movies 5 minutes after we found his wife. And jailbirds sing in Bay City, Marlowe. We don't horse around with them. Come on, let's go.
Wait a minute. Boy, you pushed too far on the wrong track. There's an angle here you ought to know about.
There's always an angle with you, ain't there, bright boy?
Yeah, but you're gonna like this one. First, in that car you're so proud of, you're gonna find prints from one Art Manelli.
The gambler?
That's right. The one who stays in operation when everybody else in Bay City is closed up. You better find out whose toes you're stepping on down at City Hall before you start out.
We got problems in our town, Peeper, but that's not one of them. Now, if you got something intelligent to offer, spill it. Without wisecracks.
All right. Ernie Parch was framed a year ago in Manelli's joint. No doubt on Manelli's orders.
Why?
Because Grace Parch was a pretty girl with the end for gamblers, that's why. All the time Ernie was in the cooler, she was running down to Manelli's place, and I got a witness to prove it. Which also makes her the kind of little cheat tramp that gets out of hand.
Go on,
Manelli showed up here tonight, with no satisfactory reason for it. What's more, you warned Ernie Parch just this afternoon that you were keeping an eye on him. Even if he wanted to kill his wife, he's not stupid enough to have done it tonight. But from Manelli's standpoint, it was a perfect time, you see, because you guys would go for it just exactly as you have.
So you think we're stupid?
Now, look. I know you got no use for me, Sturman. But you're a cop after all. And as long as somebody's got to take the rap, it might as well be the right guy.
You know what, sweetheart?
What?
Your fairy story makes average listening. Just average, nothing else. Now get going!
I was tired. Too tired to take what I know I'd be given. Once Rick Sturman got me inside the Bay City headquarters, I made my decision fast. There were 3 steps in the front porch of the wall, and he was right behind me. I took the first 2, then turned and grabbed. He sailed over my shoulder, and I heard him land flat on his back on the sidewalk as I rounded the corner of the house. I crossed the backyard, vaulted the fence, and put 100 yards of alley between us before I even stopped to think. Then I went back to my car and drove down to the water again in Gomborski's chicken shanty. The place was dark and locked up tight. I went around to the back where his living quarters were and listened. A crocodile slithering over the floor inside would have made the same sound. I pushed the door open and went in. It was Gomborski, all right, but you couldn't tell it from his face. That had been worked over long and hard by an expert. He didn't know I was there until I touched him.
Get away. Go on, get out of here.
Who gave you the beating, Gumbo?
Lay off, will you, please? Haven't I took enough already?
All right, come on, get up. That's it. Now, look, Gumbo. You told me one thing about Art Manelli, that Grace Parch went to his joint a lot. And you spotted somebody outside the window and you clammed up. I come back now and I find you like this. Isn't it obvious you're wasting your time trying to protect him?
Oh, shut up. Shut up and get out of here.
Listen to me, you poor sap. Can't you see you're going to be living with this from now on? Every time he gets the jitters, he'll give you another going over to match this one. Till he really gets jumpy, Buster, and then he'll do worse than that. Don't you get it?
Now listen, mister, that's guessing. Well, I know what'll happen if I open my yap again. I'm just not going to take that chance.
Don't you realize we'll never lick Manelli if we don't fight?
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I'm not saying nothing, you understand? Nothing, not one word. Now get out! Go on, get out!
All right, you miserable sucker. I'm through talking to you. You'll think the other guy gave you a light massage by the time I'm through with you.
Yeah, well, that's what you think. Hey, now stay where you are. I don't want to kill you, mister, but I will unless you beat it. I'd rather face that than talk.
You're getting in too deep, aren't you, Gumbo?
There's nothing else I can do. You're nothing to me. I know which side my bread's buttered on.
Yeah, but you made one big mistake already.
Mistake? What? What do you mean?
You left yourself wide open for this coffee pot. I'm sorry, sucker, but I don't have much time. Drop the gun. Come on, drop it. That's better. Now just tell me one thing and I'll leave you alone. All I want to know is where I can locate Art Manelli right now.
He's at his club, at their little casino.
You're lying. I was down there. It's closed. It's being remodeled.
I'm not lying.
All right, you need some more rubbing.
Okay. He's got a suite of rooms downstairs under the club. They're not being done over. That's where he lives. He ought to be there now. But you got to protect me. He's storming the Manelli. He'll kill me up. He'll kill me.
That's all I want to know. So long, Gumbo. At the first phone booth I came to, I stopped, looked up a Bay City number, and made a call, which took 5 minutes. Then I went on to the little casino. I parked on a side street, then went down the ramp to the underground garage in the rear. There was a door between two ornate bronze urns, Alibaba size, and I started toward it. But on a hunch, I stopped and studied the decoration on one of the urns. I finally found it. A small hole in the side. I took my handkerchief out and stuffed it into the hole. From somewhere inside the apartment, I heard a chime ring. I got my gun out, then tried the door, and it opened. Into a long, lush hallway draped at the far end with a heavy gold curtain. I waded through a green carpet deep enough to mow, up to the curtain and pulled it aside. Manelli sat at a wide, glossy desk, methodically filing his nails. His eyes staring straight at me.
You got this far. Come on in.
Don't tell me you're all alone here, Manelli.
No, I got 500 dancing girls, smart guy. What's on your mind?
You act like you were expecting me.
I knew somebody was coming. There's an electric eye on those brass jugs over the door. Anybody passes, it rings that chime there. Satisfied? Now what's with the gun? Put it away.
In a minute, maybe. Seen Lieutenant Sturman tonight?
Why? Should I?
You've been rubbing elbows with homicide.
But I didn't kill anybody.
No, I guess you didn't. But I've got a good idea who did.
Ernie Parch, of course.
No chance. It was your business partner, Lieutenant Rake Sturman himself, and 5 will get you 10. He's got big news for you.
Yeah? Hey, Rake.
Steady, Marlowe. Don't move.
Well, look what crawled out of the woodwork.
I'll get his gun, Rake.
Sit down, Manelli. I'll take it myself. Yeah, that's better. Now, don't budge, either one of you.
Wait a minute, what is this?
Shut up.
You said you killed Grace Parch, but you were in love with her. We used to meet her right here in this room.
Yeah, that was before she found out a couple of things and began to put the pressure on me. We got in a beef today, and I lost my head. Now, shut up. Okay, Marlowe. Let's have it. How'd you dope it?
Oh? Gamborski took a beating tonight just because he mentioned Manelli here. With a little more pressure, he mentioned someone else. You, Sturman. And why would you shut Gamborski up about Manelli unless you and Manelli were connected? That connection was all I needed.
Uh-huh. Right on the button, sweetheart. For all the good it'll do you.
Listen, I don't get this. I don't understand.
You don't have to anymore. You're through.
What are you saying, Ray?
You know too much about me, Manelli. You know it all.
Now, wait, you can't do this?
Yes, I can. In fact, Marlowe here gave me the idea. He even worked out all the motives. So it's easy. I came here to arrest you for Grace Parch's murder. You resisted, and I had to shoot you. Ain't that a shame?
But about this Ernie Parch.
I intended to hang it on him, Manelli, but he's nothing to me. I don't care if he lives or dies. But you're getting too big for your britches anyway. So this is better, and I get 3 birds with 1 stone. Grace, Manelli, and you, Marlowe.
Before you start pulling the trigger, Sturman, you better ask your boys.
Huh?
A couple of them are waiting for you behind that gold curtain there.
You're a liar, Marlowe. The electric eye would have tipped us off if anybody else came in.
I blinded that eye with my handkerchief on my way in.
Right, Lieutenant
What?
Sturman?
Dirty. How long you been there?
About long enough. Better drop it, Lieutenant.
I don't take orders from you, Sergeant.
You do tonight. Chief himself sent us out.
Yeah, I took the liberty of going over your head, Lieutenant, just before I came in. Under the circumstances, you'll understand.
Why,
right?
you...
Better drop it, Lieutenant.
Drop it!
Okay, now come on. You 2 guys, too. Come along quietly.
Sure. Always glad to ride with old Rake Sturman anytime at all. Just as long as there's a couple of policemen in the same car. Before it was all over in the Bay City, police headquarters, everybody from the mayor, the dog catcher, had put his 2 cents in. And I'd given the same answers to the same questions at least 50 times. All about crooked cops, and Rake Sturman in particular. But finally, hours later, I was free to go home. And as I drove through the quiet streets, I was still thinking about cops. This time the other kind. The underpaid, overworked cops. That pound the city sidewalks day and night. You know the guys who do everything from telling kids the way to the grocery store to untangling the rush hour traffic. Yeah. And I thought about each one of the cops who someday chases a hopped-up gunman down a blind alley and doesn't get home that night. Or any night. Ever again. And then I forgot all about Rake Sturman. Because after all, he was just one bad one in a multitude of good ones. An insignificant sore on the long arm of the law.
The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, bringing you Raymond Chandler's most famous character, star Gerald Mohr, are produced and directed by Norman MacDonald and are written for radio by Robert Mitchell and Gene Levitt. Featured in the cast were Barney Phillips, Ted Osborne, Sidney Miller, Tom Tully, and Bert Holland. The special music is composed and conducted by Richard Arant.
The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, starring Gerald Mohr, from 73 years ago, February 7th, 1950, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. I'd like to take just a moment to ask you to visit my friend Ted at RadioMemories.com. Ted supplies radio programs on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer. That way you can take them with you. And if you've got relatives that don't have the electronic medium, they don't have the internet or smartphones, the ways to stream the shows, you can get them for them there on cassette, or CD. That's at RadioMemories.com. Also, visit Mike Lindell over at MyPillow.com. Make sure you use my promo code Wyatt. That helps support the show. And you can also save up to 80% on some items at the MyPillow website. Check it all out. MyPillow.com. I have a MyPillow under my head every night. Check it all out. MyPillow.com. Promo code Wyatt. Also, visit my webpage. That's at classicradio.stream. You can stream our shows on demand. You can learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me there. Find our social media links. Stay up to date with all the stuff we've got going on. And if you like, you can also buy me a coffee. Now, I don't drink coffee. I don't. I'm a soda guy. But the Buy Me a Coffee money all goes toward helping us acquire additional classic radio collections and also helps us keep our social media, keep our distribution channels up and running. That's all at classicradio.stream. Classicradio.stream. Have yourself a great day, won't you? Please enjoy your Tuesday. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.